items and consent agenda items. So council, if you would, open up your packets.
Should have done
C1 is a public hearing, consideration on whether the structure located at 1115 Seneca Place should be declared a substandard structure and whether the structure must be secured, vacated, repaired, removed, or demolished. The attorney's office would like us to go into closed session to discuss this briefly. So we're going to go ahead and go into closed session. If everybody all could vacate for a moment, we'll be back. How are you? The regular session, workshop, and any other comments on public hearing C1? We did get an e-comment expressing concern for the mortgage company. They're about to get stuck with an eyesore, so thank you, Mr. Reader, for the input. Let's see here. Consent agenda, item E2, approval of the minutes. E3, approval of contract to Viscara Hospitality for Hedrick House.
That's the only company we got a bid from, was them?
I had the same question.
We had 5 people open it.
15.
15.
15.
And only one. And we know Viscara from the grant. Okay. Item 4, JSR Dallas, DBA Jet Ski Rental Dallas, approval of a concession. They've been our concessionaire for the last 2 years.
And we've had 0 complaints, haven't we?
I haven't gotten it.
I haven't got one complaint from her about them.
Item 5, approval of bid award for annual requirements contract for mowing and landscape services of zones 1, 2, 3, and 6.
I'm glad to see this. I'm glad to see that we're going with somebody new.
When somebody local.
Yes, and local business.
Question, what is vacancy savings? What does that mean?
That means when we have positions that we aren't able to fill right now, we
Okay.
budget them as if they're filled all year, and so when they're not filled, you have the savings.
Okay, that's what I thought it was.
Any questions about this one? Item 6, professional services agreement with Marathon Health.
Did we have an E comment on that?
No, no.
What just happened? Oh, everything went,
No, I don't have any
Okay.
comments on Marathon Health. Item 7, approval of a resolution designating the Director of Parks and Recs to be responsible for 2 different grant programs.
I don't even know who she is.
I'm not mentioning her name.
I mean, how well do we really know?
Any questions on those? Item 8, ordinance setting forth the Second Amendment to the Solid Waste Collection and Disposal and Recyclable Material Collection Processing Agreement.
Okay, so with all that, so when is Republic taking over?
January 31st.
Is it January of
2025?
February 1st.
February 1st.
February 1st? Okay, and then we're doing some kind of deal to make them whole on the route, is that what I saw?
On CWT, we have a separate, this item is effective April 3rd, and then Republic takes over the rest of it, right, in February?
Republic will take over, we'll have everything February.
So you'll have another item that comes back that amends the fee schedule on the second reading of this ordinance for the CWT fees. That is a fee increase.
What's the length of the contract for Republic? Years.
I would have to look that up to be sure. 2030 with a 10-year extension.
Other questions on 8? 9, consideration of a resolution acknowledging the 2024 Republic Services Cost of Service Rates. This is our annual rate adjustment. Item 10, ordinance of the City of Louisville amending the fee schedule related to Hedrick House facility rentals.
I had a question about that, since this is related to about the company that's
Viscara.
maintain the facility. So do we still have the ability to like if a charitable organization wanted to rent out the facility, do we still have the ability to waive fees or modify fees, reduce fees?
Do we have charitable rates on
We don't
the
have-
fee schedule?
No, so, I mean, we just have to go through the regular process that we do if you wanted it waived or something.
Yeah, historically, we don't waive rates for our spaces.
But we have.
I just didn't know if we had the option, I mean, I know we do sometimes for parks if we work a deal, you know. I just didn't know if a third party being involved would impact that at all.
But that's a department, right?
Yeah, we would work through the normal.
Because what we haven't done is done it for nonprofits that I'm aware of. Because if you open it up for one nonprofit, it opens the floodgates.
Right. But we have had like event fees and stuff that we waived for nonprofit events.
Yeah, but that's usually in exchange for staffing.
We have waived event fees when council sees value or when they provide us volunteers. We have not waived facility rental fees
Yeah.
across the street.
Right. So it'd be the same way that we've brought up any
Okay.
consideration in the past for you.
Okay, just making sure.
Oh, sure, absolutely. All right, any other questions on 10?
The city does have 25 days too that we can rent that for free for city events, included in the contract as well.
Okay.
Item G is reports. We have no additional closed session for this evening that I'm aware of. No? Okay, so there's the agenda. Any other questions or comments before we move on to workshop session item B? Item B is an update on the Business 121 corridor plan. We have Mr. Lukey, our Director of Planning, and Michelle Berry, our Planning Manager, presenting on that topic.
Good evening, Mayor Gilmore and members of the City Council. I'm very happy to be here tonight to give you an overview of our ongoing efforts with the Business 121 corridor plan. Presenting with me tonight is Planning Manager Michelle Berry. Also present is our lead consultant, Kendall Howard with Happen Associates. She's available for questions. So the purpose of this plan, the big question is, why should we do a plan for Business 121? As many of you know, this is a very important corridor for Louisville. It really traverses the heart of Louisville, and it connects many residents and businesses within Louisville and beyond. It also is a very important gateway. It's an eastern gateway, and it's also our southwestern gateway where the connections are made to the Sam Rayburn Tollway. So it's really an opportunity of a first impression as visitors are entering Louisville. As far as the outcomes, this planning process will explore opportunities to improve the look, feel, and functionality of the corridor. We will also be identifying different strategies, a multitude of strategies, to improve safety and also to increase beautification and economic development within the corridor. This is a map of the study area. You can see it's a lengthy corridor, 8.4 miles from one end to the other. The study area also includes a half-mile buffer on either side of the actual highway, and that half-mile buffer represents about a 10-minute walkshed from adjacent neighboring businesses and neighborhoods. This is kind of a graphic showing our project schedule. We kicked off the project back in July of 2023, and we started off with phase one, kind of diagnosing, the state of the corridor and all of the issues associated with it. Spent most of the fall and winter in phase two with stakeholder engagement. And we are kind of at the end of that. We do have one final engagement this coming Wednesday night with our ambassadors group. We'll be giving them the same presentation, more or less an overview, but we will have some engagement activities at the end to probably get a little bit more engagement at this stage of the process. Then later on in the spring, we'll move into Envision, and then calibrate over the summer, and then next fall, we'll be executing final adoption of the plan. So it's moving along rather swiftly.
So
So looking at the existing conditions analysis, just to give you an update on that, this is where we are right now in the process. The consultants are finalizing the existing conditions analysis. So the first thing was to look corridor wide. So again, it's a long corridor, it's 8.4 miles. We're looking at a walkshed from that corridor. So looking at the significance in the region, looking at all the relevant studies, the assets that are within the study area, the current land uses, the current zoning ordinances, looking at the population profiles and demographics in the area. So that's kind of the context for the corridor. Also looking at the existing mobility network. So looking at the safety, the access, there was a crash analysis that they were done to identify kind of hot spots for crashes along the corridor. Looking at commuting characteristics and where people are going to, what's their average drive length, those types of things. And also looking at multimodal connectivity. How does this corridor interact with trails, sidewalks? We have the on-demand via Go Zone. How does all of that work together? And then looking at the local market. So what are the trends in several sectors of economics development right now? What's the trends in industrial, residential, and looking at single-family, multifamily, retail, office, and hospitality. And so our consultant team, HAF, Interface, and SB Friedman, we're looking at all of these things corridor-wide. But because it is a long corridor, 8.4 miles, we also looked at it in terms of sub-areas. So originally we said when we wrote the RFQ, we need at least 3 sub-areas. Working with the consultant team, we've come up with 5 sub-areas that had a little bit more of a detailed analysis on. So it starts kind of on the east side of town with the East End, looking at the Leela Elm Fork as you move west, and then as you bend around Old Town, the Old Town Central area, coming down near Corporate Drive, and then when you get south of Round Grove, sort of the south end. So in each of those 5 sub-areas, they looked at the character and built form, what types of uses do we have, how are those structures designed and developed, because even though it's the same use, the structure might be quite different depending on the area it was built and what the primary users were then. Looking at the experience that you have driving that segment of the corridor, what does it feel like? Looking at the streetscapes, including the roadway profile, what are the lane widths, number of lanes, medians, setbacks, all those types of things. And they also did an intersection audit where members from HAF went out and looked at each and every one of the intersections along the corridor to see what they could find at those intersections. And so then the key takeaways that we found to date, when we look at the character and built form, and we'll start there. So looking at what the area feels like, what the structures are, that type of thing. We find that Business 121 is a gateway into Louisville, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it. So for many people, they may or may not be Louisville residents, this is the only impression that they have of Louisville is driving this corridor. It's the first impression they have, and it doesn't really tell our full story as a community. The connections to Old Town are hidden away. Nobody knows when they drive Business 121 that you're just a hop skip from Old Town, and that's a really cool place to be. There's a couple intersections, Main Street, Mill Street, even Valley Ridge, that could take you to Old Town, but you have no idea that that's back there on the corridor. No surprise to anyone, cars are king of this corridor. Everything here is oriented for vehicular traffic. The sidewalks and buffers along the corridor vary widely, but they never feel like they quite match the scope of the vehicles on Business 121 and the setbacks. They always feel small, underutilized, disconnected, and in some places they're missing altogether. So they look at that as well. And so Business 121 needs a coordinated aesthetic improvements to make the biggest visual impact. So looking at the built form and the feel. So we have updated ordinances now from the time that most properties were developed on Business 121. And when they come on, they meet our current standards, which is great. And those are some pretty nice standards. However, it's not going to evolve, lot by lot unless there's something a little bit more coordinated that happens. So the entire corridor needs those types of improvements, but the same improvements aren't going to work everywhere to help with the aesthetics and the function because we do have all of those different contexts. So that's part of the reason for breaking it into those sub-areas. Then looking at the mobility key findings, looking at the crash data, the motor vehicle accident hotspots were at intersections, primarily Bel Air, Corporate, Mill, Southwest Parkway, and Valley Ridge. The consultants found that the roadway geometry, the site visibility, the concentration of signalized intersections was all factors in the amount of crashes at those intersections. However, when they looked at pedestrian and cyclist accidents, they're mostly concentrated on the corporate drive section, which I don't think is really a surprise to anyone. But while the number was low, many of those were actually located away from intersections. And so that indicates that there's a lack of safe or useful crossings for pedestrians and cyclists. The primary intersection issues included lack of lighting, unsafe pedestrian crossing features, so crosswalks, the buttons being in the right locations, adequate cross times, all those types of things. The high number of driveways along the corridor impedes the traffic flow and safety for other users. Because this is such an arterial, you'd expect to have pretty robust driveway spacing to help with traffic flow and safety. Unfortunately, based on the time the corridor was developed, we don't, and in many cases, your driveways are really close together. So from an intersection, you'd really want 250 feet before you found your next driveway, and in some cases, it's much less than that, which just makes it dangerous for pedestrians walking on the sidewalks and cars that are trying to come and go from those intersections in those businesses. And then also a takeaway was that the most common destination for trips originating and ending along the corridor is home. And that's looking at census block groups that intersect with the corridor and where those trips are coming in. So looking at the key takeaways from the market summary, looking at the multifamily residential market, it's strong. However, the locations are limited, and we know we want to target multifamily development near Old Town and in the Old Town area. Looking at for sale residential, so this could be townhomes and single family, there is still strong market performance, particularly for the detached housing. And so one of the opportunities that SB Friedman identified, and we'll look into a little more, is to creatively redevelop shopping centers and maybe add housing as an option there. For industrial, there's a lot of new industrial development along the corridor. One of the key things that we need to keep in mind is that it's compatible with the adjacent uses and that we're bringing in the types of jobs that we really want to have in our community. Looking at office, well, COVID, the economics right now, there's not going to be a short-term demand for office. So we know that. That's not to say anything about the long-term, but short-term, we know that due to the current downturn, that's not going to happen. For retail, the majority of new investment in retail is in a standalone building that's built for a specific user. So 151 Coffee, those types of things where it's built with a purpose in mind. So what we look at with retail is really activating the existing retail we have on the corridor. We have a lot of retail space on the corridor and making sure that that's utilized and activated. Hospitality. There's also going to be limited near-term opportunities for hospitality just due to market conditions, distances from the interstate, those types of things.
Okay, as far as public and stakeholder input, we were very successful with engagement, as you can see by this diagram here. Over 200 responses from various activities and surveys. Many of those were available in English and Spanish. They mostly focused on big ideas and concerns along with preferences that informed potential design solutions. I will point out then too, we also had over 50 individual stakeholder conversations, and that included conversations with council members, with different residents, community organizations, business owners, including apartment property managers. So we had very valuable input from all of those groups. I do want to add that staff visited on foot almost every single business along that corridor to make them aware of the town hall that we had. And they did distribute flyers to each one of those businesses. We also sent electronic flyers to the 3 elementary schools in the corridor, and they emailed those flyers to all of the families of the students from those schools. So we were very pleased with the engagement that we've experienced thus far. As far as ideas and opinions, we got a little snapshot here, and it really just reinforces what we've all known, that there's issues with sidewalks, traffic is terrible, and there's congestion, curb cuts are a problem, not really the right mix of desirable type of businesses. It feels dangerous to make turning movements along the corridor. Walking is horrible, horrible experience. The school buses struggle with their stops. And again, just the pedestrian experience is not fun. But there on the left-hand side of this graphic, you can kind of see priorities by the respondents. And you can see they're all pretty even, with the greatest one being improving the appearance of the corridor. We had 24 responses. And then kind of tied for second is just making it safer to drive, making it easier to walk, supporting business growth. And then below that, we had increasing tree cover, shade, and green space, and then making it easier for those that are mobility challenged and making it easier to cycle. These are some word clouds that we received from the participants. As you can see, as far as words today, again, a lot of negatives, a lot of heavy traffic. It's busy, congested, dirty, old. But luckily, everyone does have a vision, and it kind of gave us some clues onto the direction we should be going. You know, making it safer, more trees, more shopping, more greenery, more entertainment. So you can see the general direction that we will be going in.
And so looking at the next steps, we're working, or the consultant is working on finalizing the existing conditions memo and the kind of the summary of all of that along with all the backup support. And then working on developing the vision and goals, to have a formal vision and set of goals for the corridor, which will obviously inform the strategies and the more detailed action steps. We're going to do more focus group discussions. There was a big push to get people out for the town hall, but we found that the focus groups, we got a lot more bang for the energy and the buck that we put in, and so we're going to continue with those focus groups and outreach to the public as well. And then doing scenario development for catalytic sites, so looking at a few key sites, taking a deeper dive into those and kind of seeing what catalysts could bring about some change that would really impact the overall perception of the corridor.
With that, we're open for questions.
With that, it's 7 o'clock. I appreciate it. Great work, really good overview, and I'll be curious to see how we get rid of curb cuts. We ready? I'm going to call this regular session of the Louisville City Council to order. It is 7:02 p.m. and we do have a quorum. Councilmember Jones, if you would please lead us in an invocation.
Please rise and join me in a moment of silent contemplation. Thank you.
Councilmember Troyer.
Please join me in the pledges to the U.S. and Texas flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right. First up on the agenda tonight is a public hearing. Item C1, consideration of whether the structure located at 1115 Seneca Place, Indian Oaks Addition, Section 2, Block D, Lot 50, should be declared a substandard structure and whether the structure must be secured, vacated, repaired, removed, or demolished. A significant structural fire occurred at 1115 Seneca Place on April 12, 2023, resulting in substantial damage to the existing single-family dwelling. In accordance with the local government code and per city ordinance, City Council must declare a structure as substandard before staff can begin abatement procedures, including procuring necessary repairs or demolition. It is the opinion of the building official that the structure is dangerous and constitutes a hazard to the public health, safety, and welfare. It's recommended that the City Council find the conditions of or defects in the structure at 1115 Seneca Place exist to an extent that the structure is dilapidated, substandard, or unfit for human habitation and constitutes a hazard to the public health, safety, and welfare. Declare the structure located at 1115 Seneca Place to be a substandard structure that is in such a condition as to make it immediately dangerous to the health, safety, and welfare of the occupants. Order that the structure shall remain vacated and that the property owner be ordered to immediately secure the structure from unlawful entry and order the property owner to demolish said structure within 30 days from the date of this public hearing. If the owner fails to comply with the ordered actions, any mortgagees or lien holders shall be provided an additional 30 days to comply with the order. We do have Chris McGinn, our Director of Neighborhood and Inspection Services, available for questions, and Mr. Jeremy Booker, our building official. I think, Mr. McGinn, you have a small presentation, although that's Mr. Booker, so.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pulling the presentation up as we speak. But this item is a public hearing to consider the property at 1115 Seneca Place and whether it should be declared a substandard structure. The legal description of this property is Indian Oaks Edition, Section 2, Block D, Lot 50. This property is located about a half mile directly south of the Thrive. On April 12th of this past year, there was a significant structural fire. The Louisville Fire Department responded after getting 911 calls from the neighboring properties. Eventually, there was three or four other fire departments that responded to this property. I believe, according to the fire report that is in your packet, this was a 3-alarm fire. There were 2 residents at home at the time of the fire. They were able to get out. But while the fire department was responding to this fire, the structure started to collapse. And according to the fire report, the fire department told the firefighters to withdraw from the property, and they would attack the fire from outside of the property. The owner of record is named Diane J. Wimberly. She passed away in February of last year, so about 2 months before the fire. The only known heir is the son, Wade Wimberly. The mortgage company is Seattle Bank, and there are no other lien holders that we know of on the property. In October of this past year, we received complaints from the neighbors regarding the state of this property. Code Enforcement Officer Tim Moore responded, investigated the property, and sent a notice of violation on October 12th. But when he went out there, it was pretty evident that it was beyond your typical property maintenance issue. And that's when he came back and talked to his supervisor, to our director, Chris McGinn, and we decided to move forward with making this a substandard case. So I wrote the report as required by ordinance on November 17th. Using the code officer's testimony and pictures, it's pretty evident based on the pictures that this was a substandard structure. It was a significant fire. There was no way to repair this, but I did investigate the property on December 27th. To date, no action has been taken on the property, meaning that the property is essentially in the same state it was after the date of the fire. It's not secured. The garage doors were removed by the fire department, and the front door was completely demolished by the fire, so there's full access to this property. So substandard structure is covered in our substandard structure ordinance. There are 17 items listed in the ordinance that if council finds if any one of these conditions or defects exist, then it is considered substandard structure. If it is declared substandard, then it's automatically deemed to be a danger to the public health and welfare, a public nuisance, and a violation of the city's substandard structure ordinance. If council finds that it is substandard, if council finds that it is immediately dangerous, then it must be ordered vacated and secured from a lawful entry. This is the picture I took when I investigated the property on December 27th. As you can see, there's the significant fire damage at the rear of the property. That's actually where the front door was located. The fire department removed the 2 garage doors. The fire spread throughout the attic. You can see from the gable there on the left that it actually penetrated through the gable and through parts of the roof. The other side of the property, you can see where the fire department cut openings, vent openings into the roof, and that lots of the siding is destroyed from the fire. Right around to the left of that piece of OSB is where the front door was. Again, significant structural damage. There's no siding left. I don't even know what was there. All the drywall's gone, and you can see directly through the property. intense charring on the structural members. They're no longer capable of supporting any structural weight. Again, that's the front door area. You can see through. The structural members are significantly charred. Property is in danger of more structural collapse. It kind of from the same area, you can see right through the property. The fire spread through the back of the property, and then it actually spread to the property next door there to the right. There was enough damage to the property to the right that the owners had to vacate the property in order to repair it from the fire. That's where the front door used to be. It's completely gone. The fire was hot enough that it likely damaged the structural slab to the point that it can no longer bear any weight. So once a fire reaches 1100 degrees, it'll start to brittle the concrete and brittle the steel in the slab. So in all likelihood that the entire foundation of this property is no longer structurally capable of supporting any weight. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 17 items in our substandard structure ordinance that if found by council that will deem the property as substandard. These are what I feel are at least 5 of the items. So it was damaged by fire to an extent that the structure is subject to partial or full collapse. It's already been subject to partial collapse and is likely subject to more collapse. And then the damage by fire to an extent that is dangerous to the public health, safety, and welfare. Again, if it collapses, it could damage other properties. And then the electrical, plumbing, and mechanical systems are totally damaged and inoperable. In our substandard structural ordinance, those are listed as 3 different items. I just combined them for convenience. So the City Council's options. If council decides to declare this structure as substandard, then within 30 days, the property owner must secure the property or repair or demolish the structure. Council can give more than 30 days, but there has to be evidence provided by the owner, mortgagee, or lien holder that they cannot comply within 30 days, and they must give significant evidence as to why they cannot and how long it must take. In addition to the owner having 30 days, if the order is not complied in within that 30 days, then any mortgagee or lien holder shall be given no less than 30 days to comply with the order. We're asking that no more than 30 days be given by council. And if City Council makes a finding that the structure is in such condition as to make it immediately dangerous to the health, safety, and welfare of the occupants, the structure must be ordered to be vacated and secured from unlawful entry. So findings, declarations, and order by City Council. Staff is asking that the structure be found to have the conditions or defects that would make the structure substandard and unfit for human habitation and a hazard to the public health and safety. We're asking that the order include that the structure shall remain vacated and immediately secured from unlawful entry, that the owner be given 30 days to demolish the structure, and that the mortgage company or any lien holders be given no more than 30 days beyond that initial 30 days to comply with the order. So within 10 days from this evening, if the order is given to demolish the structure, staff will file a copy of the order with the city secretary. We'll mail a copy of the order to the owner, any lien holders, and mortgagees. We'll publish a copy of the order in the city's newspaper of record, and we'll file a copy of the order with the Denton County Clerk's Office. That's so if the purchase gets sold to somebody new, the new owners should be made aware of this, and the clock does not start over. They still have to comply within that 30 days or 60 days for a lien holder. If neither the owner, lien holder, or mortgagee complies with council's order, then staff will contract to have the structure demolished. We'll likely just take it down to the slab. That will remove the nuisance. And the estimated cost is around $20,000 to $25,000 to do so. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
I've got a question. Could you go back to the pictures where it shows the burnout from the side into, right there, go back. This picture concerns me a great deal. How long do they have to secure it. And why can't we secure it immediately? If you'll notice that ball in the center there, it's not dirty. It is not seen fire. That means there have been kids over there playing. And that is very concerning.
Yes, ma'am. So that part of the
I
order.
mean, is there any way for us to immediately secure the area?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So if the order is given tonight by council, it will include that the property is immediately secured from unlawful entry. So we'll take action on that.
Okay. Okay, I didn't want to do the whole wait 10 days, tell them that they have to immediately, and have a gap in there when we can clearly see that somebody's been playing in there already.
So I have a quick question along those same lines. When I see something like this, as a kid, I'll admit it, this is attractive to me as a kid. Absolutely.
I would be
being
all
there.
over it.
Yep. Is there any, and I saw the ball as well, so thank you for pointing that out, Councilwoman Cade. Is there any other evidence, graffiti, other things that would indicate people are in there? That ball's enough for me. I'm just concerned about the extent of entry that's already been made in there.
So we have not seen anything. That doesn't mean there hasn't been. We haven't got, none of the neighbors have said there's been anything in there. When we've driven by to keep an eye on the property, we haven't seen
Yeah, I don't think there's anything for them to graffiti on.
That's probably a good point. There's nothing to paint on left yet.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Brooker.
Mayor, before we move forward, I wanted to point out that while the mortgagee under our ordinance has the ability to submit written information and has done so, and that's included in your backup.
We do have a request to appear before the council on this issue. Mr. Gregory Sanchnik, my apologies. He is here to speak in opposition regarding Galloway Johnson on behalf of the lien holder, Seattle Mortgage. If you could state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Yes, Gregory Sacknick, and I defer to my sheet because I work remotely, so I don't know my address off the top of my head.
Okay. I've got 1301 McKinney Street, Suite 1400 in Houston.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
I am here on behalf of the lien holder, as you said, and the mortgage servicer. We do not dispute the fact that the structure needs to be demolished. At the moment, our hands are somewhat tied. The owners of the property are both deceased, so it's in the estate's name. So the owner at this moment can't take any action. We, as the lien holder, want to step in and have engaged and started that process. Part of the materials I provided was we went through the foreclosure process and we're in that at the moment. A foreclosure sale, a notice of sale has been filed of record and it's scheduled for February 6th. In the meantime, knowing that the lien holder most likely will be the purchaser at the foreclosure sale, the servicer has obtained bids to demolish the structure. The former owners took out a reverse mortgage. It's a federally insured mortgage. So any bids that they obtain have to be approved by HUD before they can begin work. So that process has started. Bids have been obtained. It has been submitted to HUD, but our hands are somewhat tied. So I am here to request the additional time. Not necessarily disputing about the securing of the property. We cannot do it right now because we don't have title to the property. But that would be, if we obtain title at the foreclosure sale on the 6th, we would secure it. If not, if the city did it, I'm sure there would be a lien for the amount that it costs to secure the property, but I can't do it at the moment. So that's why I'm here.
Understood. So what I hear you asking is for us to postpone any action, including securing the property.
Not necessarily on the securing of the property, because I agree with the observations that everybody made. It is an attractive nuisance. It does need to be secured. I can't do it yet. I can't do it until the 6th. So if the city feels it's urgent to secure it immediately, that of course is the city's decision. But as far as requiring demolition within 30 days by the owner, well, that's an interesting twist here, because as of right now, the owner is presumably the estate, but on the 6th, that ownership is going to change, and that'll leave very little time, if the lien holder is the purchaser, to get the requisite federal approval for the demolition bids. I mean, the process has started, but you're relying on HUD.
Sure.
And so that's why I'm requesting additional time on the demolition, as opposed to the 30 days.
Sir, our understanding is that the owner has 30 days and then the lien holder has 30 days. So this is a 60-day clock that would start.
My concern is the lien holder may become the owner within that 30 days. And so is it an owner then, or is it the lien holder? Because it'll be the owner, presumably, after February 6th. So that's my concern, is that window. I mean, if I could have the 60 days, that would be great, and be assured that the lien holder, if it takes title, will not be held to the 30 days, but will have the 60 days, because it's got to go through this process.
Council, any other questions, comments?
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I actually do have a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
My first question is, you said you put out bids for demolition. What are the estimates that you have?
Their estimate, I don't have the figure right in front of me. I sent that paperwork, but I believe it was like $49,000.
Okay. So you actually see kind of a savings, but I get the lien part and the legal part. Our concern has been mostly safety for those kids and our residents who are being there. I mean, we're willing to work with you within the time frame that the mayor specified, but beyond that, we need to get that structure down, because what we don't want to do is see a kid get hurt. Mm-hmm. And so that's my comment.
So I had a question about timeline. So my understanding, I think is similar to what you're asking, is that you have 30 days as the owner. If it takes 20 days to transfer title, and you become the owner, you have 10 days left to take down that structure. I'm looking for clarity on that. Is that accurate?
That's my concern.
Right.
I don't know.
I'd be happy to take you on the back to provide some legal advice on this issue if you like.
I do understand the concern. I just want to make sure I understand the ramifications of this vote before we go forward.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, then, sounds like we need to take a couple minutes and have some legal advice. So I forget the code that is, but.
On the last page of your agenda, Mayor.
Got to find that on the last page here. You'd think I remember that at this point.
I don't remember it either. That's why I mark it.
This one's going to fall under Section 551.072, Real Estate Property Acquisition. So we will go ahead and move into closed session.
Mayor, I think it's also attorney-client privilege.
If that is, it is not on here.
Attorney counsel, okay, well. 551.071, Mayor.
Okay, 551.071, attorney-client privilege. I'll take that one too.
Thank you.
All right, I think council has gotten what they need from our legal department. So with that, unless there's any other conversation to be had from council, we'll go ahead and entertain a moment. Actually, we'll need to have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Have a motion, a second. Council, please vote. Motion to close the public hearing closes 6-0. Council, we have a specific motion, I think, in our packets. If someone would like to make that.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the city council find the conditions or defects in the structure at 1115 Seneca Place exists to an extent that the structure is dilapidated, substandard, and unfit for human habitation, and constitutes a hazard to the public health, safety, and welfare. Declare the structure located at 1115 Seneca Place a substandard structure that is in such a condition as that makes it immediately dangerous to the health, safety, and welfare of the occupants. Order that the structure shall remain vacated and that the property owner be ordered immediately to secure the structure from unlawful entry, and order the property owner to demolish the structure within 30 days from the date of this public hearing. If the owner fails to comply with the ordered actions, any mortgages or lien holders shall be provided an additional 30 days to comply with the order.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes 6-0. And any of y'all who belong to that basketball, stay out of there. Item D, Visitor Citizens Forum. Speakers must address their comments to the mayor rather than to individual council members or staff. Speakers should speak clearly and state their name and address prior to beginning their remarks. Speakers will be allowed 5 minutes for testimony. Speakers making personal, impertinent, profane, or slanderous remarks may be removed from the meeting. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistles, yells, clapping, and similar demonstrations will not be permitted. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the City Council is restricted from discussing or taking action on these items not listed on the agenda. Action can only be taken at a future meeting. I have Ms. Aram Ali available here to speak regarding the Louisville Park Alliance. Happy New Year.
Good evening. Happy New Year. It's nice to be on this side of the dais for once. Aram Ali, 1456 Ashby Drive in Louisville. I am here tonight as a representative of the Louisville Park Alliance. As you all know, the LPA formed last year to support our Parks and Recreations Department in securing funding for program scholarships and other big projects. We are holding a meet and greet on February 23rd at Bent Distilling in Old Town Louisville from 5 to 7. We would cordially like to invite the mayor, council members, and all department heads to come out and join us for a little soiree, a little evening of just getting to know us and learning more about what we do and how we would like to work together to help out our planned projects for the upcoming year. So please watch for formal invites coming to your email boxes soon, and we hope to see you all there.
Thank you very much.
That's
Very
it.
exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, we are
Looking forward
excited
to this
also.
organization taking on the world. All right. I do have 2 e-comments to add to the record. Or I'm sorry, 1 e-comment. The other was regarding just an expression of sorrow for the mortgage company picking up the 1115 Seneca Place. The other one, and these of course can be found in the electronic documentation, so if anybody wants to read the details. We also do have an e-comment from Ainsley Stelling requesting density statement to be added to the STR ordinance as outlined on January 8th, 2024. The additional information is regarding STRs in Fredericksburg soaring to more than 1,900 units in June of 2022, which is approximately 25% of all the homes in Fredericksburg. Of course, many of those were in the same streets and neighborhoods, and so it created some challenging areas in the central and historic neighborhoods, which have displaced permanent residents. Ms. Stelling would like to see us add that language that we discussed briefly at the end of our last conversation. So I know that's in process and being reviewed on which ways we can deal with that. Super. Do we have any other comments? All right, that is it for Visitor Citizen Forum. Move on to item E, consent agenda. All the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. For a citizen to request removal of any item, a speaker card or e-comment must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary. Council, do I have any requests to remove anything? City secretary? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes 6-0. Item F, regular hearing, 8. Consideration of an ordinance setting forth the Second Amendment to the Solid Waste Collection and Disposal and Recyclable Material Collection and Processing Agreement and the First Amendment to the Solid Waste Collection and Disposal and Recyclable Material Collection and Processing Agreement. The City Council approved an exclusive franchise agreement for solid waste and recycling collection and disposal with Public Services for Legacy Louisville that became effective January 1, 2021. Following the annexation of Castle Hills area, the city assumed an exclusive franchise agreement for residential solid waste and recycling collection and disposal with Community Waste Disposal, CWD. During the September 18, 2023 City Council work session, staff presented options for solid waste and recycling collection for the Castle Hills area. Subsequently, staff was directed to transition solid waste and recycling collection for the Castle Hills area to the Republic Services exclusive franchise agreement, making the service consistent consistent throughout Louisville. Staff has negotiated a transition plan with CWD and Republic that considers challenges for both customers and providers in the Castle Hills area. The city charter requires that amendments to a franchise ordinance be read twice, 30 days apart, and go into effect no earlier than 30 days after the final reading. The first reading will be on January 22nd, 2024, and the second reading will be on March 4th, 2024, with the amendment effective on April 3rd, 2024. It is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above. We do have Mr. Aaron Russell, our Director of Public Services, presenting a brief PowerPoint.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Not to be too repetitive to what you've already gone over, but I just want to give a real brief background on the subject. So back in November of 2020, the city did execute an exclusive franchise agreement with Republic Services. That covers both residential and commercial collection in Legacy, Louisville, for solid waste and recycling. And then in November of 2021, following annexation of the Castle Hills area, the city assumed the exclusive franchise for solid waste and recycling collection for residential only. So in the Castle Hills area, commercial collection is actually still an open market. And then in September of 23, staff did present some options to City Council with respect to solid waste and recycling collection. And that really ranged from leaving things exactly how they are all the way to bringing the service under one umbrella, with Republic Services being the single vendor for both residential and commercial collection. And I do want to point out, just for frame of reference, because it's germane to the amendment that is before you tonight, that the CWD agreement, current CWD agreement for Castle Hills will renew in April of 24, which takes us to April 25, because the required notifications were not given by either side to terminate the contract. And the reason for that is we're negotiating these changes through this process. So both sides are all on the same page. As you mentioned, the process for this, because it's a little out of the ordinary, it's not something that we do every day, which is amend a franchise agreement. It does require 2 readings and a delay of 30 days after the second reading. So that puts us into April of 2024 before this amendment actually takes place. The crux of this amendment is really terminating that CWD contract at the end of January 31st of 25 versus April of 25. So it's ending that contract a little bit early, bringing it under one umbrella with Republic Services. The reason we're doing that is really about providing ample time for the commercial businesses to wind down those existing contracts that they have with their current haulers, because it's a little more complex than just changing with residential, because we have multiple vendors shrinking it down into one. So we've got a lot of businesses that have to not only change vendors, but actually figure out what that service is going to be with Republic Services. So we've allowed ample time for that to happen. We wanted to line up the residential and the commercial process together from a timeline standpoint, just because we felt like the communication would be so much more effective, there'd be less confusion with that process. So that's how we arrived at a date of having everything under one umbrella under Republic Services in starting February of 25. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
If there are no questions or comments, thank you, sir. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the ordinance is set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, setting forth the Second Amendment to Solid Waste Collection and Disposal and Recyclable Material Collection and Processing Agreement, and the First Amendment to Solid Waste Collection and Disposal and Recyclable Material Collection and Processing Agreement, providing for severability, an effective date, and acceptance by Community Waste Disposal, LP.
Council, if you please vote. Motion passes 6-0. Item 9, consideration of a resolution acknowledging the 2024 Republic Services cost of service rates for franchise solid waste and recycling services, and consideration of an ordinance amending the fee schedule of the City of Louisville by amending fees related to solid waste and recycling services. On November 16, 2020, the City Council approved an exclusive franchise agreement for the collection of residential garbage, refuse, yard waste, bulky waste, recyclables, containerized waste, and multifamily recycling with Allied Waste Systems, Incorporated, doing business as Republic Services of Louisville, Republic. Ordinance number 0277-11-ORD became effective January 1, 2021, establishing the terms of the agreement. Per the agreement, the cost of service rates are to be adjusted annually by the percentage increase in the garbage and trash index for the Dallas-Fort Worth area for the preceding 12-month period. Adjustments take effect on January 1 of the subsequent contract year. The current garbage and trash index for the Dallas-Fort Worth area, as published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, reflects an increase of 7.72%. However, per the contract, cost adjustments shall not exceed 5% in any contract year and 15% in any of 4 consecutive years. The Republic Services cost of service rates will be increased by 2.4% effective February 1, 2024. It's recommended that the City Council approve the resolution and ordinances set forth in the caption above. Council, I'll entertain a motion.
Before I move to approve, I just wanted to point out what you said at the very end of that the index is at 7 point something, and that this is a 2 point something increase. So because of the contract, we were able to negotiate with Republic. We have a lower rate than we should. So I just wanted to say thank you to staff for that. And with that, I move to approve the resolution and ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
There we go. This is an ordinance of the Louisville City Council amending the fee schedule of the City of Louisville by amending fees related to solid waste and recycling services, providing a repealer, severability, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Item 10, consideration and ordinance of the City of Louisville amending the fee schedule of the City of Louisville by amending fees related to Hedrick House facility rentals. The Hedrick House recently underwent significant renovations to become a premier rental facility. The city has identified an event and rental management company to operate the facility. The management company has recommended the proposed fee changes to better align with its operational plan for the Hedrick House. It's recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above, and we do have Ms. Stacy Anaya, our Parks and Recreation Director, available for questions. If there are no questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Louisville City Council amending the fee schedule of the City of Louisville by amending fees related to Hedrick House, providing for a repealer, severability, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
All right. Council, please vote. And that passes 6-0. Next up is reports about items of community interest regarding which no action will be taken. Councilmember Meredith, you mind?
Okay, so got some library activities for the week. Vita income tax preparation for adults, January 25th through April 13th, 2024. Thursdays, 4 to 6:30 p.m. Saturdays, 9:30 to 1. No registration required at the computer lab. Animakers, Anime Plus Makers for teens, 13 to 18. Thursday, January 25th, 6 to 7:30 p.m. No registration required at the Hive Makerspace. English Conversation Hour for adults, Friday, January 26th, noon to 1 p.m. No registration required at the Crawford Meeting Room. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Troyer?
Yes, I have a number of items for the Louisville Grand Theater. First of all, performances. There will be a Texas Tunes concert, The Suffers, presented by the City of Louisville on February 10th. As always, the acoustic jam sessions take place on Friday evenings from 6 to 9. That's presented by the Visual Art League of Louisville. We have 2 exhibitions going on in the theater, or in the facility. First of all, Deconstructed, presented by the Visual Art League of Louisville, and that is now through February 3rd. And then Becoming One, The Time Is Always Right to Do What Is Right exhibition. This is presented by the MLK of North Texas Committee, and it's running from January 20th through March 2nd. And I'll tell you the quality of the art that the students of the LISD have done for this exhibition is just unbelievable. I'm continually amazed at what we see coming out of the students from 3rd grade through high school. So it's well worth going to see this exhibition.
Thank you, sir. City Attorney? City Secretary?
No report, Mayor.
Mr. Lutke?
No report, Mayor.
Ms. Samples?
No report.
Uh-oh, we got one?
Believe it or not, I do. I would like to take time to acknowledge my favorite police chief, Kevin Deaver. This is Deaver's last council meeting as police chief, and I would like to acknowledge him for his 35 years of law enforcement experience and his 25 years with the city of Louisville. I have thoroughly enjoyed working with you, Deaver, and you will definitely be missed, and thank you for your service to our community.
He's always loved the spotlight.
Exactly.
How's the lake?
The lake is holding at 93.3% full. That's 520.57 feet. Should be filling this week.
Yep, quite a bit.
I wanted to make mention that this Sunday, January the 28th, Operation Kindness will be at the Jean Carey Louisville Animal Shelter and Adoption Center, performing low-cost vaccines for your dog or cat. Rabies vaccines are $10. Also microchipping for $10, so that's a great deal. It's first come, first serve, and everything begins at 9 a.m.
Great, thank you. Mr. Lee? Chief? Chief? You sure?
You're going to make me make the last meeting even longer. Now, I want to thank the council for the support of the police department and me specifically over the last 5 years as chief. You all have been wonderful, both this council and past councils, so thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Chief.
No report.
I just wanted to briefly mention that the call for the Colorpalooza 2024 vendors is now open. It seems like it's really far away, but it's really not. We also have, so Colorpalooza, just put it on your calendar, is April 27th, which will be here before you know it. But before that, we also have the St. Patty's Texas style going on March 16th here in Old Town. So mark your calendars for that as well. And go get your dog or cat microchip this weekend. I did it 2 years ago. Do it.
I'm excited to announce that the Youth Action Council will be meeting here in Louisville in February, on February 3rd. We've had a nice long history. I forget how many years we've been doing it now, but we know the former mayor of Cedar Hill, we kind of modeled our Youth Action Council after him, and Stephen Mason, the current mayor of Cedar Hill, is keeping that alive. But it's been great. We're going to have a former Youth Action Council member, Cameron Dockery, will be speaking there, and we'll have our Youth Action Council there go through their sessions. So I'm really excited about that to watch this thing grow and continue.
It's been great work.
I have nothing, Mayor. Mine's been done.
Okay, awesome. You all right? You don't want to take over the world now that Claire's incommunicado?
I'm good.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I wanted to point out a few small things. I talk a lot about community in this space, and community's not 132,000 people. It's finding your niche, and that requires being engaged. It requires a little bit of effort on people's part to get out and meet new people and find that thing that makes you sing. This weekend, I got to spend time with master naturalists, with our friends at Leela, with our Parks Department. I actually took a 10-gallon tree home in my little Miata, so I had a 12-foot tall tree sticking out of the top of my car. But got to learn a lot about the native plants and animals in the area, and see so many great residents who are trying to make a difference just in their backyards, and it was really great. I ran from that then to the Champion Macedonia Cemetery, where we saw Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and black sororities and fraternities and neighbors coming together to rebuild a black cemetery, that's a historic black cemetery in our city. And we've got a couple of those, but they've done an amazing job to take something that was run down, that the family was no longer able to really handle, and be able to create a respectful place where veterans and residents have been interred, and where people can come and take some quiet time. It's a wonderful thing. We're getting a historical marker for, but so much community there, and plus our county officials, our state officials. And then I got to spend time at Terry Sullivan's down here for his 4-year anniversary. And if you know Terry Sullivan, he started his restaurant right before COVID, and he figured out ways to feed people during COVID when he couldn't do the work. He had to go out, and he was feeding the elderly, and he was finding people to, sell barbecue to. And you know what happened? All those folks came back and said, hey, you took care of my mom or my dad, or you took care of my grandparents, so we're going to take care of you, Terry. And here he is 4 years later doing better than ever. I talked about that because every one of those requires people. It doesn't require a city council. It doesn't require government. It requires people to do. And it was a glorious weekend. And to put a bow on it, there's a man that's leaving us right there at the front who knows a thing or two about building community. He was in the leadership position when we had some really troubling times here when we dealt with the aftermath of George Floyd. And our chief leaned in. He stepped forward. And he took that point, and he opened the doors to communication and community for a lot of folks that didn't know what we did and why we were on the front lines and why we are considered a role model in Texas and across the country for our positive policing. And Chief, we're going to miss you, but go keep building community. I hear you maybe have an idea or two for that. So with that, we have no additional workshop, and we have no additional action to be taken tonight. So with that, we are adjourned at 7:51 p.m.